Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You gotta eat what you kill. You gotta go out there. You gotta hunt for your meals.
We all have that ability to connect with people, to be that motivational person in somebody's life.
You gotta let people know there's certain lines you don't cross, and that there's gonna be consequences if you do.
Man up.
If you are an adult and you are in a relationship, that person's emotions are not your responsibility.
Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
The devil, during slavery, destroyed the masculinity or manhood of the so-called Negro. No man. No man. Right now you got to be trained all over again to be a man.
When someone is obligated to do something, it is binding upon them to do it. And failure to do it causes reaction.
Man up.
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
If that people knew that glorious pop, if that people knew that glorious pop, if that people knew that glorious pop, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You want to tell me about yourself? Go get your friends. I'll tell you who you are based on who your friends are.
Don't just live and die. That's an ugly existence. Make your life matter. Make your life count. Live a life where people can actually mourn you for the things you left behind, not just because you were around and existed.
We need strong black nuclear family.
Yes. Yes.
That's what it is. Mother, father, son, daughter, all in the same house with a focus on the family unit as a whole.
We had Tulsa, Atlanta, New Jersey, Detroit. We had Rosewood. We had Black Wall Streets all over.
The Republicans aren't for us, but the Democrats aren't for us either. And we should have no alliance to any political party. We only have alliance to what is in our own best interest.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
At the end of the day, as men in the community, we must stand together and be counted, because people look to us for guidance, leadership, and protection. And if we are not about that business, we are not on our job. Here we have grown-ass man conversations in the spirit of that purpose. Anthony Malcolm, Bobby Drake, Major Gage. We are. This is Manifestations 2020.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
All right, welcome back to another week of Manifestations 2020, man. We missed y'all, fam. We was out last week because we let you guys go ahead and basically hang out with your family. We had the Super Bowl, so we just wanted to make sure that everybody was more focused on their family, and we took the time out just to give you guys a time to have mental break and mental space, because we cram so much information sometimes it's good to recharge. So that was a week that you guys got from back to back that you could recharge, have your celebration with your family, chill out, have fun, enjoy the Super Bowl. Depending on who you was rooting for, some of y'all came out very happy, some of y'all came out very mad. But at the end of the day, you was around family, you had a great time, and that's what it's all about. Hopefully everybody that was out there partying that week, you guys came back home to your family and was with your family and came home safe. That was our main goal, to make sure that you guys are doing whatever you need to do to come back in a safe manner. So that way you guys will be here next week with us and in this 2025, getting this great information to help you protect your family and mentally be more aware of what's going on. And like I say, this Manifestations platform is one of a kind because a lot of people don't really talk about what we talk about. So for us to go out there and talk about what we talk about, that is very powerful because people need this, you know. And as you guys can see, that our topic for today is the importance and the legacy of the life of Dr. Neely Fully Jr., which is one of our favorite elders and teachers, master teacher at that. And you guys will see throughout the course of this podcast how powerful Dr. Neely Fully Jr. was. And this is why we always tell people, you know, your life is not dependent on accolades and merits for doing symbolic stuff. Like there's a lot of people who don't get the accolades, who don't get the merits, and been doing great work and has been moving our people into a position where they have done tangible work. And we'll also show you another powerful individual that was impacted by Dr. Fully, who ended up becoming one of our great late elders as well. And she's done phenomenal work. And, you know, every time she has done lectures, both men and women gravitate to her. The men gravitate to her because men, we really love intellectual women. We really love when women are out there really giving us good game and not out here with the foolery and being programmed by the dominant society. When we see a lot of women are lined up and doing their purpose work and fulfilling it, we really gravitate to that. And we got a lot of that back in the 70s through the Panther parties. We saw that with the Black Panthers. You know, the women that they had around them was solid. And a lot of that imagery had went down the drain because we had the dominant society out here producing movies for us and basically gearing us into the Black exploitated side of things, where they had us out here as pimps, hoes, hustlers, and just really over the years kind of diminished our Black power, our Black representation, and our Black knowledge and everything like that, and have really dumbed us down in the long run. So we are at a point now where we're realizing that, and we have to get back on our square. And you know, Dr. Neely Fully Jr., throughout the whole transition of both eras, he was out here educating people, and a lot of people didn't gravitate to it because, you know, when it's not the majority, people aren't going to gravitate to it. So if majority of the people aren't listening, a lot of people not gonna, it's gonna fly over their heads. So we as people who understand it, we're the minorities. We're the ones who appreciate the great work that he has done. And to be fair, there are a lot of people that aren't exposed to him like that because he wasn't really a mega media mogul that was out there pushing himself out there. He didn't take a lot of pictures, and he did it on purpose. He was kind of low key that a lot of people brought him mainstream. So over the years, there was a lot of people, especially young guys out there, that were very good at doing cartoon work and started to implement a lot of his teachings in the cartoons. And you'll hear himself said that he got a lot of feedback from people saying that they enjoy the cartoons of people taking his knowledge, putting it in more visual frame of it so they can get it. And he understands that more people are more visual than opposed to just reading and taking it in on a lecture type.
Right.
thing. So, it was great to hear our late elder appreciated and being acknowledged in different ways before he transitioned. So definitely wanted to highlight that. And we're definitely gonna go into that tonight. We got a super impactful facts to show tonight. I just wanted to get Major, we ain't been out, so I just wanna, you got any things you wanted to tell the people before we get into our stuff tonight?
I just want to challenge people, to intake more powerful, positive, and meaningful content. You mentioned how Brother Neely Fuller is not particularly well known, and that's a shame. You understand? Because the information that he was offering should have made him well known, should have made him one of the people that everybody in Black society was exalting. But what we like to do as a community, we like to exalt our buffoons, and we don't pay attention to those of us that want to teach. And so I just want to, put it out there, guys, it's real out here, and I have this philosophy, stupid in, stupid out. If all you watch is stupidity and all you engage in is stupidity, that's going to be your output. So, I just want to challenge y'all. Yeah, we like to, have our fun and make it rain in the club and go drink and go smoke out and all this. But I want to challenge people to make time for the Neely Fullers of the world, because what they have to say is important. It's going to get you a hell of a lot farther than the other bullshit that you're focusing on.
Well said. Well said.
Hey.
So with tonight's show, a lot of people not familiar with Neely Fuller Jr., but we do have a couple of quotes here that I do want to share with you that was so very impactful. And our late great queen that he has impacted, here's a picture of both of them. On the left is Neely Fuller Jr., and on the right is our late queen, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. A lot of y'all might know her. If you don't know her by her face or image or seen her lectures, then you might know her by her one very powerful book, The ISIS Papers, that everybody always talks about. And, Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. has his own, book that's out. And we'll get into that as well. So you guys will definitely see some of that. All right. So going into one of his quotes, one of his quotes is, if you do not have a code, white supremacists will give you one, and it will always result in your being a victim. So what they mean by that is, we had a code of conduct, and what happens is when we don't operate in our code and we operate off code, we put ourselves in danger and in trouble. Because when we're not on code, when you're on code, you're disciplined, you have controlled emotions, and you're more calculated in how you move in a system of racism. When you're off code, you don't have discipline, your emotions are running wild, and that will engage you into a line of fire against your opposition. Because remember, you're always behind enemy's lines the minute you leave your door. So you have to be very strategic on how you operate and how you maneuver outside in this world. Systemic racism is all around you, right? So with that being said, he also has his famous quote: if you don't understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else you understand will only confuse you. All right.
Yeah.
So he has a book out, The United Independent Complementary Code System Concept Textbook Workshop for Thought, Speech, and Actions of Victims of Racism. So you guys got to check that book out. A lot of y'all, especially I know Bobby Drake, he always talks about The Art of War. He always talks about that book. And in that book, a quote from that book is, if you know your enemy and yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
Right.
If you know yourself, but not your enemy. For every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. That's very powerful, right?
That is very powerful.
So,
yes, sir.
Neely Fuller Jr. also stated, right? You don't need to study your history to see how great you were. You need to study it to find what mistakes you made. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, anything that does not help to eliminate white supremacy or help to reveal white supremacy is not worth doing. So basically, you're wasting your time. If you're not out here trying to help the next generation figure out how to replace this system with a system of justice, everything you're doing is worthless. Don't matter if you're traveling, don't matter if you're doing this, doing that. It doesn't matter if you have all the accolades, doesn't matter if you have all the wealth. It means nothing if the next generation isn't being put forward in a better position than you were put forward. It just becomes a whole waste because now everything regresses and they have to start back at square one. So now they have to go and start back 50 years of what we have established 50 years prior. So you're making the hill that they have to go up a lot higher versus giving them a flat platform or even giving them a surface that goes downhill, because everything once you go downhill is more smoother than going uphill. So if you're not paving a path that's either on the same wavelength or giving them a decrease in their patterns, meaning giving an easier walk versus a steep hill, then everything you're doing on earth has no purpose, has no merit, and it's just a waste of time and a waste of your life, because we all have a purpose here. And if you're not following your purpose, you're pretty much you're wasting your time. Right? And I don't want to seem like I'm sounding bad, like if you're not out here doing nothing, but guess what? I always tell people, like, when you look at history, history will tell you itself. History in itself will tell you. If Harriet Tubman did not do what she did, a lot of us probably still be born in slavery. Yeah. Slavery probably still would be happening right now if Harriet Tubman didn't bring that many free people to that many slaves to the free land up north. And because people were born free, they were able to open up their own business and they were able to flourish. And some of those businesses that were opened up around the Harriet Tubman era is still generations going on right now, running off that same business that their parents have established back then, grandparents and ancestors have established back then. So because one person made an ultimate sacrifice, it ended up flourishing multiple families on even a financial freedom and financial wealth, all in the same breath. Because one woman said, I'm risking my life to free these people. Because remember, when she freed herself and made it with them people that she carried along the way. Yeah. Not only did she do that, she went back over 600 times, which she basically put her life in danger 600 times. The average slave did. So that type of sacrifice will never go unnoticed because her legacy has now been cemented and she's been transitioned centuries ago. And now we're still here talking about her legacy to today. A lot of y'all think y'all legacy is built off of finances and merits of these accolades that these people are giving you. And it's not built off of that. It's built off of substantial stuff that you can look at and say, you know what? I want to be like that. I want to do things that they did. I want to construct buildings and hospitals and banks and things like that. We have a very, very well-known family down in Broward that has done a lot of things. Even some of them have left their names on the parks and and historical parks, that their families owned. And when you look at the park and you research their name, you start to see that this legacy has continued and they have been making waves throughout. That's how you build your legacy. That's how people recognize you. That's how you live this life.
Right.
And if you're not doing that, then like I said, we don't, I don't know what you're doing, because I think that's the purpose of everybody, right? So with Neely Fuller Jr., that was one of the major things that he brought in. He made sure that he was explaining how this world is really ran so we can operate and maneuver in the correct form or matter that we should be doing it in a safe way for us to really maneuver through this world that is pretty much a race war and a continuation of the plantation, and that a lot of us don't understand it in the various forms of it. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Major. You want to add on that before we get into some videos?
No, I mean, you said it all, bro. I mean, that's just what it is, man. Like, and the most important part, I think, of what you said and what Neely Fuller Jr. used to communicate to everybody was the importance of having a code. Mm-hmm. And this is where me and a lot of these cats out here, this is where I just can't follow you. I just can't talk to you. I just can't appreciate you. Nothing, because the off-code behavior is crazy. I mean, like, there's just certain things you don't do as a group. You don't see, for instance, you don't see Jews out here, co-signing when a Jewish person behaves badly. When a Jewish person behaves badly, they're all over that. Hey, cut that shit out. You know what I'm saying? Or we gonna come for your ass. You know what I'm saying? That's how we need to be. Same thing with Asians. When an Asian person behaves badly, they don't gravitate to them. They don't, go and support them in their bad behavior, whereas they're making the group look bad. They're bringing down the property value of the group. You know what I mean? One of our biggest issues is that we kind of exalt our garbage. You understand what I'm saying? At some point, you have to stop being so mad at the people who are out here acting a fool, and you really got to get on the people who are following them. When you look on IG or Twitter, any of these places, all these I'm a hoe rappers, look at how many followers they have. All these I'm a drug addict rappers for the men, look how many followers they have. That's where we need to be placing our frustration. It's screwed up that these people are acting like that too. They don't get a pass, but they wouldn't be getting rich doing it if we weren't out there supporting them with our dollars and our time. So just culturally, we are in need of a major paradigm reset. And I think that's what the code speaks to. And, the reason why being on code is so goddamn important is because you can't really get much done if you're not on code. Your mind is too preoccupied with foolishness, which is what I just said not too long ago. Stupid in, stupid out. So, we really need to wean ourselves off of the Sukihanas and Lil Xans of the world and really start to focus on things that are substantive, that are going to move us forward as a people.
Exactly. Well said. So with that being said, we're definitely going to go into our couple of videos going on with Dr. Neely Fuller Jr.
The U.S. that we're seeing by the police against African people. You discuss within your book the 9 basic areas of people activity, and one of them is war and warfare. How would you explain how warfare fits into white supremacy and the attacks on black people by these white cops and black cops?
Well, it's not just cops as such. Actually, I have a different way of expressing what is going on. Actually, police officers do not do unjust harm to people. Police officers do not mistreat people. race soldiers do. Now, what is a race soldier? A race soldier is a person who is a white supremacist acting like he's a police officer, or she. Might be a he, might be a she. But they are imposters. They're not police officers. We need to change the language so that we don't lump everybody all in the same category. And because there are people who are trying to do police duties, which is protect and serve, or whatever it is that they contracted, they made a contract to do. Now, but a white supremacist has one agenda, and that's to be a white supremacist. And white supremacists are any white person a white supremacist is any white person, male or female, who believes in and who practices white supremacy by doing what? By trying to dominate or continuing to dominate people who are classified as non-white, and in that domination, mistreating the people. That's what racism is for. Racism is about mistreatment. It's not just about being proud of something or your color or your height or your weight or anything like that. It's about mistreatment. If you are racist, you believe in mistreating people. That's your whole reason for being. Dominating and mistreating people based on color.
But Mr. Fuller, one question I would have is how do you distinguish between a police officer and the imposter race soldiers you describe them when, given the context we're in, wouldn't the entire institution of police be race soldiers? Is it possible in this context to not be a race soldier and be in the police or the military, extending that?
No, it's not impossible, but every victim of racism should suspect that any white person wearing a badge and a gun may be, and I want to underline may be a white supremacist. So when you see them coming, you consider yourself already a prisoner of war. It's not like you're being captured. You've already been captured because you're in a world system of white supremacy anyway. You're already in prison. All black people on the planet Earth are already in prison. Now, when we are put in what we call something that we call a prison, jail, a stockade, some type of prison camp, you might say, this is what, in my book, I define as greater confinement. You're already confined just by being on the planet, if you have color in your skin, because the world government is the system of white supremacy. You're born in that system, white people and black people. All non-white people and all white people are born in the system of white supremacy because that's the only government on the planet. According to what? According to the evidence and according to logic. Now, there are people who will say, oh, no, that's absurd. That's not true. There's all kind of governments on the planet. No. You either have white supremacy or you don't. There's no such thing as white supremacy being in one place and not being in every place. Otherwise, it couldn't be supreme. Most of the world is classified as non-white. Most of the people on the planet. So you either have white supremacy or you don't. I claim that you do. Now, that claim is either true or false. There's no wiggle room in between. And so I'm saying that if you are classified as a...
Yeah, he was cooking.
Given the context we're in, wouldn't the entire institution of police be race soldiers? Is it possible in this context? I want to ask Mr. Fuller, how has this moment of confusion around the president in the White House being a black person then confused all black people in the system of white supremacy?
Now, the question is how? What now?
How has the president of the White House, the president of the U.S., this black family in the White House confused black people according to your understanding of white supremacy?
Oh, well, for one thing, President Obama is not in charge of anything. So for people to attack him, attacking him for what? He's not in charge of anything. The white supremacists are in charge of every black person on this planet, including the Obama family. If you understand white supremacy, you understand that. There are no so-called black presidents and black leaders anywhere. All of the leaders of black people are white. White supremacists specifically. Those white people who have chosen to participate in the system of white supremacy are the leaders of all of the black people on this planet. Now, what do you have among black people? You have black spokespersons. What is a black spokesperson? A black spokesperson is a person that speaks. I'm a black spokesperson. Why? Because I'm speaking right now. Every black person who speaks is a black spokesperson. And every black person who is speaking, regardless of where he or she may be, Congo, Cameroon, Mali, any place, they are just speaking. But the decision makers for all of black people in the system of white supremacy, which is worldwide, are white. When the decisions are made, I often give an illustration, and I've done this before.
Mr. Fuller, we hate to do this. We really have to interrupt you, unfortunately, because we got to get out of here. Our time is cut. We will definitely like to have you back with us and continue this conversation, maybe even next.
Yeah, he was cooking.
He was cooking.
He was cooking.
And see, this is the problem when Neely Fuller starts spitting. Black folks are too scared to pay attention and just take notes, because when you start to realize that this is what is going on, you understand what I'm saying? Like Tariq often says, okay, now that you know that this is what's happening, now you're forced to have to do something about it. You understand what I'm saying? And this is where me and liberals really part ways. At least conservatives will go out and they'll get behind something and they'll raise some hell about it, and they'll make sure something gets done. Liberals just like to whine, so they every day, they go posting on Facebook complaining about Trump. Nigga, that ain't doing nothing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is why I can't get along with liberals, because they have this feminine mentality. Women, no shade. I'm not shading the women, but it's more acceptable among women to complain about things, and then someone will come and fix the problem. You understand what I'm saying? As men in particular, we ain't supposed to be doing that. That's corny as hell coming from a man. You understand? And I see liberal men doing this all day long, just whining and whining and whining and whining about Trump and what he's not doing. Joe Biden didn't do shit either, but since Trump is in office now, we gonna complain. And that, this is the problem. There's no consistency. And you want to bitch and moan and whine and pick the person that you're upset about that's oppressing you. They're both oppressing you, but only one of them upsets you. Come on, man. What are we doing?
Yeah.
A good brother, Claude, I've been arguing with him quite a bit lately, because he seems to have that affliction. He will call the Republicans out so dirty, and he's right about some of the things they're doing. They do some foul shit. But when the Democrats do it, he ain't got nothing to say. I can't take you seriously, bro. You know what I'm saying? Huh?
Who did that?
This brother I went to school with named Claude.
Okay, gotcha.
He likes to come on my page and debate me, and it's like, man, he means well. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But my problem is with his lack of consistency. And it's not just him. In fairness to him, he's a good brother. He's smart. But like a lot of liberals, they're smart, but their biases blind them.
Yeah.
You can't see that both of these people are doing the same thing. It's just they're doing it in different ways.
Yeah.
I'm calling out all of them. People like to say, you give Trump a pass. No, nigga. I'm not giving Trump a pass. I'm pointing out to you how Biden is just like him. And you didn't say shit about Biden being like him a week ago. And for the last 4 years, I have a problem with that. As a people, we got to start understanding ain't no difference between Democrat and Republican. They're things on the same snake.
Yeah.
You understand? And black people, we get on this shit where we think the Democrats are our friends. Oh, Lord, you know that Joe Biden came down to the hood and he kissed a few black babies and he sang some Negro spirituals and he did the Dougie with Roland Martin and all this old shit. And you don't realize you're being pacified, dumb nigga. You know what I'm saying? You're being pacified. And that's what we have to get past. We need to start getting to the point where we're not just whining about shit, but we're in the process of taking action. That's why the movement, the delineation movement with the FBAs and, you know, the decision to withhold the vote, I think that's powerful. I think that is a power move because we're actually doing something. We're not just whining. We're saying, hey, you know, nobody's got anything for us, so we're not going to vote for you. I think that's very powerful. And, you know, of course, by the time the liberals get done with it, oh, you know, any non-vote is a vote for Trump. So now you're telling me who to vote for. You don't even realize, but the Republicans are the ones in the cult. You understand what I'm saying? You're telling me who to vote for. If I don't vote for this person that you say I should vote for, then I'm part of the problem because, you know, I didn't say I'm voting for Trump. I'm just not voting because there's nothing to vote for. They have us so brainwashed that we feel like we have to vote for these people or else. And I'm of the presence of mind that says, fuck that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to do me. I'm going to do what makes sense for me. And more black people are starting to get on that. You know what I'm saying? Where we don't owe anybody our vote. You feel me? And I think that that's very much in line with Neely Fuller's teachings and with Malcolm X's teaching. You know, he once said as well, you know, don't just give away your vote. You know, we have to be strategic with the way that we vote and the way that we spend. We have to be strategic with everything. That's the importance of being on code. And that's the thing that really, really made me gravitate to Neely Fuller Jr. because he is always talking about being on code. Once you're on code, everything else falls into place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing, you know, unfortunately, I gotta be honest. People often ask this question about, you know, well, why are we having such a hard time getting on code? We didn't used to have that problem, right? And that's true. Two reasons. You got a lot of Negroes that's comfortable. They done found a comfortable place in the system of white supremacy, so they're comfortable and okay with secondhand citizenship. That's one. And two is the influx of a lot of black foreigners. Now, I'm not going to say that every black foreigner is a coon, but goddamn, it's a lot of them. You understand what I'm saying? And that's an issue. You know, even when they come here, they'll tell you, I'm not black, I'm Jamaican. I'm not black, I'm Trinidadian. I'm not black, I'm English. That's coon talk. And it's way off code. So we need to curb that type of thinking. And we need to either delineate like we've been doing. Shout out to FBA. They're delineating like hell. They're getting people who ain't FBA up out the mix, and I love it. We need to either delineate or practice some true, operative word, true Pan-Africanism, because I was talking to Brother Amon the other day, and I was telling him, brother, I support the concept of Pan-Africanism. I do not support the practices of Pan-Africanism over the past 50, 60 years or so, because we're the only ones practicing the shit. Black people from other places do not believe in Pan-Africanism whatsoever. You understand? I know half my family is from Africa. I'm half African, half FBA. And I was raised FBA. So, you know, that's where my loyalty lies. But the point of the matter is, you know, I've been around because of the Africanness or the part of me that, you know, has some African there. I've been around a lot of Africans, and they Pan-Africanism is an alien idea to them, to the average African. Even in Africa, you understand what I'm saying? They have tribalism that keeps them from uniting and doing what they need to do. So that's a major problem. And tribalism, is something that's always plagued us, and it is the epitome of being off code.
Well said. Yeah, I totally agree. I find that we are off code. And one of the major reasons that I think that we're off code is the powerful programming. And the Negroes that are being paid to facilitate and push the false narratives and the Black exploitated stereotypes. The combination of the two forces the majority to go in that direction because everybody wants to check. And that's another thing that people don't understand. And one of the things that Neely Fuller always tries to implement and show people is that white supremacy, racism is a system that is designed to keep Black folks or non-white folks in a position of financial deprivation. And once you keep people in financial deprivation, it is easy to manipulate, control them, and get them to do whatever you want them to do.
Absolutely.
And we, like I say, with the powerful programming, social media and things like that, we're not pushing it in the right direction we need to. We go around saying stuff like, and this shows you how desperate and idiotic we are when it comes to it, because we're so financially deprived. We'll write things like, would you slap your mother for $1 million? And then when you look in the comments, you see people say, I'll slap my mom for $50,000 and 2-piece biscuits. So basically what they're saying is that, shit, you just give me a certain amount of money that I'm cool with in my head, and I'll do anything, even disrespect my mother to that level. That's how bad it is. Once they keep you financially deprived, you'll do anything for money. And one of the things that helps them to push that is when they place the drugs in our community, they use the drugs to destroy our people, but also gives us a sense of, hey, you can make fast money destroying your people. And guess what? A lot of people are going to take that opportunity because they're looking at the money versus the longevity of how detrimental what they're doing and their actions will cause. So now you're out here destroying families for a paycheck, and now you're not building anything with that paycheck. You're not doing anything productive with it. You're putting rims on a car. You're spending $100,000 in an old 1972 car. Then after a while, you get tired of it, and then you want to change it out. By the time you look at it, you spend over $240,000 in a car that has no value of what you have done to it. You just spent a lot of money that you had basically risked your life to get, in order to get that money, dealing with drugs and things like that. You're taking a risk on your life. And you're doing it for nigga trinkets, and popular and hood popularity. Oh yeah, man, that motherfucker got the hardest dunk in the hood. Oh, he got the fastest dunk in the hood. And you pride yourself off of that type of recognition. And it's sad. And like I told people before, we can condemn drug dealers all across the board from every era. But when you look at drug dealers back in the 70s, 60s, they actually did a lot of good work for their people. A lot of the banks that were not funding our Black community, our Black entrepreneurs and businesses, a lot of the drug dealers were funding them. So even though they were destroying some of the people by pushing the drugs in their community, they also were the added bank that those people needed as well. So it was kind of a balanced system. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything and make it seem like it was positive, but I would say that, hey, they didn't do it for nothing, because you have businesses to this day, 80, 90 years, been flourishing because of that drug money that was given to them to open and establish their business. A lot of the drug dealers looked at the locals as family. A lot of people that they knew had good hearts in there, they would make sure that no muggers or anybody would mess with them. And if they did, they would get disciplined by the gangs of these leaders. You know what I'm saying? Because they knew who was the good people in the community. And even when we were growing up, I had drug dealers that told me, like, hey, man, you don't need to be out here. And they would tell my mother, like, hey, you know, he out here. Make sure they, you know, you stay on that way. Well, we'll keep an eye out on it for, you know, there was a more comforting type of vibe with the drug dealers back in the day versus the now. Now you got the drug dealers now, and it's converted into scammers where it's electronic. And even the electronic drug dealers now, or what he's called scammers, you know, they're wasting their money on strippers, BBLs, getting girls BBLs, purchasing houses for them, cars, traveling. That's it. They're not putting any money into any politician. They're not putting any money into any black businesses. They're not doing none of that. All of this is trinkets and recreational bullshit.
Yeah. You used to be able to make a case for them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't like what he doing, but he do a lot of good for the community. It's like now these niggas have no redeeming values. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when the cops come for them, okay, well, they just came for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Back in the day, it's like, damn, you know, that brother used to help everybody out. Now we ain't gonna snitch on them, but we ain't gonna, you know, make too much noise either. Like, okay, well, shit, you know, what did this person really do for anybody but himself?
Yeah.
You know, our priorities are way out of whack as a people, and they've been out of whack for a long ass time.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And if we are ever going to get out of this mess that we're in, we're gonna have to, you know, break that cycle of stupid in, stupid out. You know what I'm saying? This is who we are right now. Like, you know, people say, you know, that black culture is, you know, rims and Jordans and weave and all this old shit. And I always push back against it. And I had to correct myself because I used to say that's not black culture. Now I have to say that's not the only black culture. Because we've allowed it for so long that it has become quote unquote black culture. As much as I hate to say that, you know, if you spend, you know, 25, 30 years bullshitting, that's your culture now. The bullshit is part of your culture.
Yeah.
You know, so unfortunately, yeah, at this point where we are right now, twerking has become part of our culture. You know, wasting money on frivolous bullshit like rims and these ugly ass weaves and all this other bullshit, that has become part of our culture. You know, having 50 pairs of Jordans has become part of our culture. 50 pairs of Jordans while we still live at home with our mama, by the way. You understand what I'm saying? These things have become part of our culture simply because we keep repeating the dumbass mistakes and we're not calling them out.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we got a ways to go. I'm still faithful though. I'm still very optimistic because I see young people listening to Neely Fuller.
Yeah.
You know, I see young people listening to Kendrick Lamar, you know, and not because they like the beat. I'm talking about there's this 13-year-old kid. I'm gonna post this video up on our page. 13-year-old kid. He was running down, you know, the halftime performance and how he was using that to, you know, talk about systematic oppression, and he was giving the details of, you know, what the Uncle Sam character meant, and, you know, how, you know, the government tries to suppress how we speak and how we move and so forth and so on, and, you know, how they love a safe Negro. This young brother was spitting. He was 13. I was like, damn. Okay, you know, some of these youngins, they'll surprise you out here.
Yeah.
Saying they're not all dumb like Kai Cenat. You understand what I'm saying? Like they're not all dumb like that nigga.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, I'm very hopeful listening to some of these young cats. I don't know where they're getting this information from. They must be going online and digging up, you know, the Malcolm X and Farrakhan speeches. But I'm very pleased with a lot of what I hear from a lot of these young cats. So shout out to them.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to them. Just thinking about doing next week, doing the breakdown of the Kendrick Lamar thing. You guys let me know how y'all feel about that. Because I think there's a real deep breakdown on it that I found to be very, very intriguing. But I didn't want to get too much into that today because of, you know, our life of Dr. Fuller, Neely Fuller. And I wanted to talk about, you had mentioned, I wanted to add on to what you had mentioned about the Africans coming here and not understanding white supremacy and, you know, systemic racism. And they come here, and like you say, it's a lot of immigrants that come over here. So when they get in these positions of power, they don't understand the Black culture. They don't have no relativity to it because they white worship white people in the diaspora. And they also come over here saying that they don't experience racism. They do experience racism, but they just don't admit to it.
Right.
It's kind of crazy and wild. But I want to play this video right quick and then show you guys what I'm talking about.
Oh,
okay.
The psychopathically racist way of Europeans, but we've taught them to aspire to success behaving like Europeans. So you're having this, our children are getting slapped and knocked down because they don't understand who they're dealing with. They think that racism doesn't exist. So they're approaching it like they don't exist. And then the European response is a European and they don't understand. They'll get into an encounter with a cop and they'll think, oh.
All right, so the this little Black boy was riding a bike with his white friends, and this white racist guy came out and grabbed him up and started yoking him up. And his friends had to come, and he don't understand what's going on because this African kid comes over here thinking that white people are their allies, and white people, they worship them to the point where even if they do something wrong, they don't feel like it's something wrong. It's just a misunderstanding. And not knowing that type of mentality, it gets you killed, you know? And it's sad that a lot of the parents from the diaspora don't teach their children that. I have Black parents. My parents are from Jamaica. And growing up, they never taught me that. It was the foundational Black 5%ers in New York that taught me about the Black history. You know what I'm saying? And that's the sad part. You know, a lot of people from the diaspora, they'll only tell you about coming over here to make money, to come out here and be on your your educational best. And that right there will pivot you into a world of success. And that's far from the truth, you know? And a lot of people that come over here, they get the reality check. And then a lot of them will sit here and get this underpay amount of money. And because the diaspora, this is what makes the people from the diaspora so dangerous, right? And I'm telling you this with Jamaican parents. And I've told my parents this. So anything that I'm telling you guys, and I talk about the diaspora, I'm here to tell you the truth. I don't sugarcoat it to say that I'm here, you know, doing it out of just to say things, I don't say that. If I'm saying something, I'm telling you about it from either my point of view or researching. But I could tell you from a diaspora point of view, from my Jamaican parents and seeing my Jamaican side and the family and the culture of Jamaicans, a lot of them will come here and they will work themselves to death and realize they're not getting the money that they deserve, but they feel like they're getting more money than they would in their country. So what a lot of them do is they'll get the underpaid money here and send it back home and build a better home down there off of the little money here, because the money here value-wise is more than the money down there. So
Right.
they'll go and use that money and build back their community. The Asian, the Hispanics do it all the time. All the Caribbeans do it, from the Haitians to Jamaicans, Trinis. They all do it, where they come up here and make their money and go back and build their home back in their homeland and leave America and go back. So a lot of them, they'll talk shit about their country, but come here and get the reality check, and then they'll use America to build a better life for themselves and a retirement foundation back in their homeland. So a lot of people don't get the concept of it because they'll sit back and only play their part by using their agendas for what they use America for. So in the meantime, it's like, hey, I'm not going to get in the way of it. They keep their head down, they keep out of people's business, and they go try to do what they need to do and bring their money back. Or a lot of people from the diaspora, they get the seat, they get the money because they know that they're going to get a lot of money here for being in roles that they can control. Well, they're allowed to control certain people, especially Black people. And a lot of people from the diaspora, they come here and they tell you that they don't like Black folks. They say Black folks are lazy. They tell their children not to be around them. Most people from the diaspora, they do a lot of interracial dating. I have family members that are interracially dating. That's what it is. They have a disdain for Black folks because the reality of it is, a lot of times when you have degenerate countries that's ran by degenerate leaders, and this is all by design, you have an influx of people that is around each other, and proximity violence and proximity culture and proximity behavior molds you in such a way that if it's not in a positive way, and most of it's not, it's in a negative way, it will cause a huge disdain that will cause you to do the polar opposite of what you're around or what you're accustomed to. So if I have a bunch of Jamaicans and the women down there aren't acting right, they're very aggressive, they're out of manner, or they don't got money like that, or even with the women, if they meeting men that don't have money like that, they're womanizers, they beat on their women, and this is what they see constantly. Now I go to the other side of the race and I look at them as a savior, because in their culture, they might not beat me like that up front. So now I'm appreciating the little things that they're doing because I'm so disdained about the stuff that I was normally culturalized around seeing and being a part of. So I see a lot of polarized opposite on the other end when people from the diaspora come to America. They don't come and link up with Black folks. They come and link up with all type of different races, whether it's Spanish, Asians, or whites. So yeah, I see a lot of that, and I'll land my plane on that. Bobby, what's good?
What's going on, fam? I'm still learning, man. Had to haul ass, try to get here. I was in a previous engagement that, crap show to say the least. That really ran an hour over what it's supposed to. But as soon as I was able to go ahead and disconnect myself, blaze the trail over here, made it one piece, no tickets, no nothing. So it's a win. But heard you brothers putting in that good work. Definitely doing our elder, our ancestor, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., full justice. And I know he'd be very pleased. Neely Fuller, he was never much on celebration. In fact, in most cases, he would say that we don't have anything to be celebrating. And I'm sure if he was alive, he would definitely object to having people celebrate and to revere him. And all respect to the ancestors, but at the same time, I personally believe in celebrating our heroes, celebrating the people that came before us and gave us so much. So if we can turn around and celebrate people who lived lives and didn't leave anything behind for us, we better go ahead and, so to speak, show our asses for the people that blazed the trail for us, gave us wisdom, gave us the game, and gave us gems that we can use to not just enrich ourselves, but enrich future generations. So if there's anybody that's worthy of the admiration, worthy of the respect, worthy of the celebration, the remembrance, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., the master teacher, he's definitely in that company. So it's an honor to go ahead and give him shout outs and give him praise. And you brother's been doing a fantastic job so far from what I've heard. So
Yes,
big
sir.
kudos.
We appreciate you, boss. Look, man. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say to finish up with what Major was saying. A lot of liberals, we talk about that. Neely Fuller talks about the liberals. Malcolm X talks about the liberals, and a lot of them are they're wolves in sheep's clothing. They look a certain way, but the inside of them is still vicious. The only true ally you have that is outside of what you look like is the ones that will risk their lives to change the system of white supremacy to a system of justice. And people don't understand what that looks like, but I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So here's one of them, right? We had John Brown to talk about John Brown all the time from 1804. John Brown was out here lynching slave masters, based on the inspiration that he got from Dessalines and the whole 1804 movement. So that's how John Brown made his legacy. He was not a white guy that was going to go with the flow of everything. He was against it. And he put in work until he got killed himself. He was out there fighting on behalf of Black folks. That's what John Brown did. So now you have this guy, Carl Brandon, was arrested and sentenced to 15 years in prison in 1954 for buying a home on behalf of a Black veteran, Andrew Wade, after real estate agents refused to sell to Black people. So here you have a guy who could have just said, hey, I can't do it. I don't want to do it, whatever the case may be, and go about his life. He's going to live good. He's a white man. He has a system that's built around him for him to succeed. Even if he falls flat, he could still get a second chance of life without hardship. And here it is, this man went against the grain, knew it was illegal to do it, and still, because he felt whatever the relationship he had with Mr. Wade, or he just felt the sympathy and empathy that, hey, this man is a veteran for our country. We pride ourselves on veterans. Every Veterans Day, we salute to anybody. If we see, no matter if you're Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever you are, once you put on a uniform, people salute you. And the first thing a lot of people say is thank you for your service, because they appreciate you going out here to fight for a country that we live in. So we understand the battles that you have to go through, the mental strain that you go through with the war, the PTSD that you have to endure. Even if you have a family, you have to fight through that in order to survive that, and also be in a position of sound mind to deal with your family and to still go on with your general duty of being an officer for the military. And this man had empathy for this Black veteran, probably said, he wanted him to get a home for his family. We don't know what the size of his family is. Could have had 4 or 5 children. And he said, you know what? I'll go ahead and do it for you because I understand what you're doing for the country. It's not right, but I'm going to stick my neck out and do it for you. And he ended up getting 15 years behind it. That is a ally. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. That's an ally. Anytime you go against the system as a white person and you get punished for it in behalf of doing something productive for a Black person. There wasn't no marching or anything like that. It was buying a home. Anybody that knows when you buy a home, that's automatic equity. So this man has a house for his family, has equity, financial equity, because he has a home, and he can leave that home for his children after, because he get good money from the army to get paid off, so his children don't have to suffer. So now you gave him a base of generating financial wealth for his family, and this man gets punished for it. So salute to Carl for doing what he do. 15 years is a long time to be in jail, but I'm pretty sure him sitting in jail, he probably was like, it was well worth it, and he probably do it again if he had to. And those are, if you don't have white folks out here making that type of move, none of this is gonna change. All that stuff where white folks tell you, yeah, I support reparations, I support this and I'm behind you, brother. And that's all they're doing is talking. They're not going down there. They're not putting themselves in a position of power to make laws, to change laws. They're not using their resources of their friends that are very powerful people to say, hey, I need this done for black folks. I need this pushed, and be that moving weight, that moving force, that driving force behind it. They're not an ally. I tell people all the time, there was a couple white people that are in positions of power and they wanted to take pictures with me. They wanted to give me accolades. They wanted to hang around me. And I said, let me tell you something. Are you the John Brown type? And they just looked at me. They didn't even know who John Brown was. I said, when you realize who John Brown is, then you can come back and holler at me. Because if you're not the John Brown type, I don't want to be around you. I'm just going to be honest with you. If any white person want to give, if you see them around me, they're the John Brown type. If they're not around me, they're not the John Brown type.
I hear you.
So that's my level of code that I have. You know what I'm saying? I don't run around here like a lot of black folks that run around here and get a lot of white friends and say, yeah, I got white friends. No, they're white friends, Hispanic friends, they're Asian friends. If you see them around me, they're doing some great goddamn work and putting our people in tangible positions and not no symbolic bullshit. And I land my plane on that.
Yeah, I think that what you just said is key about, how we see everybody as our friend. A lot of us are very desperate for validation, particularly if it comes from a white person. Oh man, you see these Sambos out here with they snow bunnies online, big old shit eating grin, look like a sissy in a weenie factory. You dig? And it's just exactly. That's what it is, Bobby. Just like that.
Their eyes bucket heavy.
Yeah, eyes bucket heavy. Just because they got a white woman on their arm, and it's like, bruh, is that woman an ally to you? Is she a ride or die? Like some of these sisters out here. See, you can call that whatever you want to call it. Maybe she just fetishizing you. Maybe she really likes you. But how far is she willing to go for you is the question. Because when you're in proximity to a white person, there's always every chance that that's going to get checked. You know what I'm saying? If you out eating dinner with your white girlfriend or your white wife, you're in danger. Some of them good old boys come past. It might be a situation. How far is she willing to go? And I say the same thing for my white friends. I got a couple Hispanic. I don't have any white friends, but I got a couple Hispanic friends that are pretty down. You know what I'm saying? And they've helped me before. They've shown a willingness to look out. You know what I'm saying? And, when people start talking sideways and saying all kind of crazy shit, they'll speak up before I do. I rock with that. You know what I'm saying? I think that shows integrity, because at the end of the day, we have to realize that as black people, we are in a unique situation. Just playing the American game. Shout out Kendrick Lamar and Samuel L. Jackson. Just playing the American game. We are in a unique situation where we're constantly in a state of danger. And if you are constantly in a state of danger, you can't afford to have people around you that you don't know where their allegiances lie or which way they'll go if some shit pop off. You simply cannot afford it. So from a strategic standpoint, you have to choose your friends very wisely. You have to choose your friends strategically, just in case. Because you never know. As a black man in America, you never know when it's up. You never know when it's up. And you got to keep it on the swivel. That's just what it is.
Exactly. And I want to say, what do you call it? When you look at allies, right? And everybody runs around and says Biden, right? Biden. Oh, yeah. And then they say, oh, Trump. Oh, he's. And I'm saying to you, okay, the only people Joe Biden didn't pardon on his way out the door were the ones Democrats sent after Trump. Why is that? Were they used by the Democrats and then thrown away? We always hear that saying when I think it's the Professor Truth had that one saying.
Yes.
Yeah, Professor Black Truth would always say when white supremacy is done with their tools, meaning black people, they destroy them, they get rid of them. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they do. They'll use you, destroy you, throw you away. and you run out here and you ruin your reputation to basically go out here and be this soldier for people that really don't have no good interest for you. They ruin your career. You can never get back in the limelight. And now what is there to do? You want sympathy from the same black folks you talk down on, that they use you to talk down on. And now you out here stranded between a hard rock and a place because you can't go to the black people because now they're looking at you like a sellout.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't go to the white people because they don't even look at you. Because one thing I always tell black people, always stand on your square with white folks. I don't care if it's at your job. I don't care where you at. Stand on your square when it comes to white folks. Because let me tell you something. White folks have more respect for a black person that stand up for themselves and don't take no shit versus somebody who kiss ass.
Mm-hmm.
They'll sit back and they'll use the person who kiss ass, but they don't respect them. And once they use them up for all the kiss ass and shit that they need, they get rid of them. And they'll be the first one they throw under the bus. And then those same people that they throw under the bus wondering why they're getting thrown under the bus. Because they knew you was a sample. They know you're not going to do anything. And they know that you have no loyalty. Because if you, as a black person, can sell out your own people to be behind me, then how am I going to trust you when it's somebody else? You might sell me out to somebody else. That's how white folks look at it. They look at loyalty. They're very number one on loyalty. And they see where your loyalty is. And if they see that you're flip-flopping on your loyalty, they don't want to be around you, but they will use you.
Facts.
And I land my plane on that.
Shout out D.L. Hughley. Speaking of coons that white people like to use, shout out D.L. Hughley. Shout out Ricky Smiley. Shout out Steve Harvey. I could go on. What is it with black comedians and athletes? They are particularly Sambo-ish. Damn. I mean, they're always violated.
Financial control.
Facts.
Brain typing, boy.
Facts.
Financial control.
Look,
You
got to watch out for these industries where the competition to make it is fierce. Comedy has been like that for the longest time. It's literally a crack in the dam, and you got gallons upon gallons upon gallons of water bursting trying to get out. They only let like 2, maybe 3 comedians out at a time. Let you get your run, then get someone else. So you got to watch out for those people, like you were talking about earlier, about how they purposely restrict black people and keep them in a state of deprivation. When you're in that position where you're literally fighting to make it, and this is your plan A, you don't have a plan B, then it puts you in an interesting compromise position where it's okay. Just how much are you willing to sacrifice in order to get the come up? Yeah. If you're easily compromised, or even if you're not easily compromised, but if you really bet the farm on this, and if this doesn't work out, there's nothing left.
You stuck.
It's easy for you to get bent over the barrel. We talked about this before with the vaccines and the pandemic. And again, it doesn't. And again, I'm going to reemphasize: it doesn't matter whether you're for or against the vaccine, or whether you see it as a good thing or bad thing. The issue is that people were being forced to take it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're in favor of it or against it, but you should not have to be forced to take it, and then threatened with things like losing your freedom, losing your job, the way you feed and provide for your family, and everything else of that nature. That's the issue.
Facts.
You have people that were forced into that who suffered adverse side effects from it, or who later on have found out that, we were actually wrong, we can't do my bad. And they can sue now, but it's too late.
Yeah.
So whatever issues you're dealing with, that's it. And even then, they're trying to find ways around that, because I remember when they were first doing that, they stated out front that because this is an emergency federal order, you will not have any recourse against the manufacturers or the government if you take it, it should go sideways.
Yeah.
So basically, you got to take all the risk for this. You can't get any kind of sort of recompense for it if it goes sideways, but you have to do it because otherwise you can't feed your family.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. When you're easily compromised, or when they force you into that choke point, what are you going to do? Most people aren't going to have the level of discipline excuse me, the level of discipline, and also the level of moral courage to say, you know what, even though it means I'm not going to be able to eat, even though it means my children might go without, my significant other might go without, I'm still going to fall on this knife. We're still going to suffer. Rather, most people do not have that in them.
We have no code. It goes right back to the code. Facts.
But see, and you know what? In fairness, because I'm banging that drum all day, but I would say that it's also a result of the culture, because you can't automatically go and expect people to have that level of commitment. When you see people who have the level of commitment, odds are it's because that's a cultural practice. So even when everything isn't in their favor, they're still willing to go ahead and make those sacrifices. Why? Because that's part of the culture.
Yeah.
But in order to get that, you have to have gone ahead and invested in that bank account, so to speak, early in advance. If you, I'll use me for example. When I was much younger, in my 20s, I was a regular, routine 4 to 5 day a week gym rat. I'm talking about like a good 7, 8, almost 9 years straight. 4 to 5 days out the week, I'm in the gym faithfully. I'm hitting the weights, I'm pumping the iron, I'm ripped, I'm strong as an ox, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
When I had some hardship hit me, and the job I was working at the time, I was working much farther from where I was living. So literally I would have to be out the house to get to work before the sun even comes up. And then most cases, I was leaving after the sunset to get back home. I had a nasty commute to get through and everything. I literally had no time to work out and hit the gym. There was a period where I wasn't working out at all for about a good 3 years. I probably could have done some at-home stuff, some push-ups, whatever, calisthenics, whatever, but I wasn't. But I didn't have access to the gym. The first 2 years, you couldn't tell that I wasn't working out, because all that hard work and discipline that I put in, my muscle mass was still maintained. I still looked good. The numbers on the scale were going up, but it didn't reflect that. It wasn't until about year 3 and about halfway through year 3 that finally the guts started coming a little bit. The pecs ain't pecking like they're supposed to. The muscles started to sag a little bit. But it took almost 3 years to get to that point. Why? Because I put in a good solid 7, 8, 9 years consistently doing the work. It's easy for people who are in a state of deprivation to still cling on to those values if their culture has been such before that, where they've always been able to operate from that station. So now when you're at a point where you're saying, well, you're not economically in a position where you can afford to have that kind of resolution, even if that's not the case, you have that muscle memory drilled in, you have that culture drilled in you. Well, this is our practice. We don't know how to do any different from that. But when you have a people that have been consistently deprived, and then they've been spending more time not in that economic position than they have been in a good position, then you come along, you start waving the little butter biscuits in their face, the little nigger trinkets in their face. How can you expect them to turn that down? What training has been provided them beforehand? So this is the reason why it's so important for us to be serious, and why we don't have time for the nonsense, as Neely Fuller Jr. would say.
Yeah.
You don't have time for all the antics and the nonsense. You're not in the. Are you winning? There was a little meme that went out from I don't know if he actually said it, but it was attributed to T.I., where he was like saying, you at the club every weekend popping bottles and celebrating. Exactly what are you celebrating? What is the win? What major thing did you do that's justification for you to be out there popping bottles, blowing money, and you're not in the position that you want to be? You're not professional where you want to be. You haven't got the wins in your life that you want yet. You're still in a rough shape, but somehow you can afford to go ahead and spend time, spend money, spend valuable resources doing nothing, celebrating nothing.
Yeah. That's right.
We're not in that position. If you want your children, your grandchildren to be in a position where they can go ahead and pop bottles and celebrate, then you got to put in the work right now. You got to put the sweat equity now to get in a position where if they come along again like they did a few years ago and say, hey, you have to do X, Y, Z, or we're going to take the food out your mouth, you can laugh at them and say, hey, you can tell me what you want me to do all day long, but you can't take food out my mouth. I don't rely on you for my daily bread. I get it on my own, or I have my bread stacked up already where I can sit back for a while and we're comfortable. We're not gonna be lacking for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. We're gonna get into our next video with Neely Fuller. And he goes in, he's gonna be cooking again, so pay attention, all right?
What is slavery? Slavery is mistreating people in a way and in a sophisticated form, if it's sophisticated slavery, that they don't know what to do about it. Slavery is nothing but a form of mistreatment. Subjugation and mistreatment. Domination, those two elements, and mistreatment. You dominate the person that you are mistreating, which means you dominate them in all of the areas of activity, including sex. And you also dominate them in the first area of activity, economics, how they use their time and energy. And in the second, education. So you tell a black person, you will announce to the world yourself that black schools are inferior, you know, or that the education that black people are getting is an inferior education. Then you jump to labor, one of the areas of activity, and say, you're not educated, so therefore you can't work here. You don't have an education. Well, you don't have an education because you've already declared that the schools that you go to is inferior. You've already told the world that. So therefore, you've got an inferior education. So when you come and look for a job, I mean, you're not qualified for the job. You can't go into the labor market because your education is inferior, which means by proxy, you're inferior in doing anything of constructive value. So now, you're going to have a baby. Now watch this now. You're going to have another baby, and you're not going to have a job because I'm not hiring you on a job without an education. And I'm going to see to it you don't have an education because I never straightened out the school system. I've been arguing about the school system, about who's black and who's white, and who will go to what school, and how much money you will pay to go to school to get a so-called education. All right? Now you're going to have a baby on top of it without my authorization? I don't think so. So what I'll do, since you can't sustain yourself and support yourself and your baby, then I'm going to see to it you can't have no babies. Now how about them apples? And that's the correct thing for me to do, because I've cut you off from all resources where you can justify having a baby. Not only that, when it comes right down to it, as you get huffy about it, you can't even justify your existence. Because you're not supposed to be walking around on my planet with no education, don't have no job, and I'm not going to give you one. And I'm not going to allow you to make one for yourself. And you think you're going to have a baby on my planet, on my watch? No, I'm going to have to tailor. Because that's what they're doing now. I call it racial population tailoring confusion. I've been calling it that for years. That's one of their 6 strategies. So they are tailoring the populations of the non-white people because they're forcing them into an economic situation where they can only have so many babies. The white supremacists are correct about that. I mean, there are some people who run around in, you know, I recently read something about some people in the Amazon, I believe, in what they call the jungle. I call it the forest. But they have babies all over the place. There's one right after another. And some of them die of what you call disease or natural causes and all like that. Right. But the females keep having them. But what do they have? Because the white supremacists allow them to have it, by the way. They too are under white supremacy. But on account of their primitive conditions, and that goes back thousands of years, and that's all they are used to, they can have unlimited babies because they're all going to be self-sustaining. That's the key. We're in an environment where the white supremacists will tell us, get an education and get a job, then they'll seal off the means by which you get either. And if a few black people seem to really want to get educated and don't give up on it, then what have they been doing in the last 15 or 20 years? They've been going up on what? The price of getting the education, knowing full well that your grandmother ain't got that kind of money. because that's who you're going to be dependent on. You're just out of high school. You're going to depend on your grandmother, your mother, your sister, and your father who's looking for a job and gave up on it because he can't get one. So now you get into a school and the tuition just keeps going up and up and up and up. When here in the Northwestern Hemisphere, there were a lot of black people who had dishwashing jobs but went to college. They were Pullman Porter's children who went to college. They weren't making a fortune, but they could at least get in some type of college. The white supremacists looked at that and said, we're getting too many educated black people here. How do we stop them from getting an education? Go up on the tuition. Hey, that's a no-brainer. We'll tell them in order to get, even walk in this classroom. I mean, hey, you got to be talking about at least $10,000 just walking in and sit down. You haven't even been taught anything yet. But just to walk in and sit down, that's $10,000 right off the top. You black people, if you got it, as your grandmother got it, she's scraping together her little change and pennies and got her little coins in the handkerchief she's been saving from that maid job till she got bad feet and whatnot. And that hospital job she had, I mean, now she can't help you. Nobody can help you. Because we got it rigged so nobody can help you. So now you got to drop out and look for a job. And we don't have a job for you because you don't have an education. See how they got that thing rigged? I'm telling you, these people are the shrewdest people that the world has ever seen. The people of the Roman Empire would be applauding, saying, boy, hey, they outdid us. Absolutely, and they do it even at what we call the lowest level. They'll tell you that you are now a high school graduate. You say, well, how am I a high school graduate? Because I said so, and here's a piece of paper that I made out 15 minutes ago. And I put your name on it, and I'm giving it to you. Because I'm the one who determines what people know and what they don't know. I'm the God here. So I'm saying that you know these things. And so you take the piece of paper and you look at it and you say, now, okay, that's nice. It sure is pretty. It looks good. Got my name on it too. Say, okay, I gave you the piece of paper saying that you now have a degree of knowledge that I have given you. And I put your name on it that I have given you. And you say, okay, now what can I do with this? I'll talk to you about that later. Well, what do I do in the meantime? Just try to stay out of trouble. Then I'm going to see to it that you get in.
That feeling when you...
All right, so Neely Fuller was cooking. He was cooking. And I've always talked about that. The school con game. A lot of it. You need the basic information dealing with certain fields. You do need some of that information in order for you to elevate in certain areas of life. But we had that balance in Black Wall Street, and that's why to this day it's always been the financial mogul and blueprint and poster child for a community that generated the most financial money in history. And even to this day, even when you have the J-ish people, they haven't accumulated that type of money that the Black Wall Street accumulated during that time. What made Black Wall Street powerful is that because of Jim Crow not wanting us anywhere in their facilities, their areas, we had to basically have that FUBU mentality. for us by us. And that's what the Black Wall Streets were generating, was a whole FUBU district. So you had all the businesses there. You had people that were teachers, scholars, architects that went to school for that, got their education in order to do that. But we had people that were doing more trades, you know, the electrical, plumbing, and that was generating a lot of money. So it wasn't that many people with the collegiate background that made Black Wall Street successful. It was more of the tradesmanship, you know, the sharecroppers, the real hardworking angles of the businesses, the Black businesses that generated a lot of that finances. And we also don't talk about how in Congress we had 3/4 of it with Black folks that asked for the tariffs. So when you got people out here complaining about Trump and the tariffs, then a lot of people don't really understand about the tariffs. We were demanding tariffs before Trump was. And a lot of people don't understand, back then we had a lot of businesses. Tariffs benefit businesses. That's why people who have businesses, they're not sitting here arguing with Trump about tariffs. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say a lot of people don't know their history to understand that element, that part of it. And when you look at it, the con game has really, really taken us out, because now we have put so much money into behind that financial and collegiate degree piece of paper, that a lot of people that's graduating now, and even not just Black folks, but just people in general, are not working in their own field. So now you have to pay back this loan, and you're not even in a job field that is even adequate enough for you to pay back that loan, the interest rates. So it's another form of slavery, just the financial way of it, of holding you in, you know, in debt like that. And a lot of people don't understand. And that's why I was trying to reach out since last year to some people that are in the collegiate realm to try to come on here and educate our peoples on what degrees are more substantial or more beneficial versus the dead air degrees, because a lot of times we get caught off in the dead air degrees. We're getting these degrees and they don't really do nothing for you, and you don't put yourself in a big financial burden, and that degree is just a wasteless piece of paper that you spent X amount of your life earnings on. So definitely want to do that, but I'll land my plane on that.
Yeah.
You know, again, you know, the man is Steph Curry with the knowledge he doesn't miss. You know, he's on point. Everything he said was spot on. There was something else, and I don't know if further on in the conversation he got into that, but they're so wicked that, because as he said, and this was one of the newer gems that he dropped on us during the whole time of the Charlottesville riots that took place. But Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who went ahead and declared through his observations, he said that white supremacists take any and all sides of any argument. And that's how they're able to maintain power, because they always make sure that they always have a representation on any particular direction of an argument. So that way they hedge their bets. So just like with the stock markets and investments, one of the typical default strategies is when you have a portfolio, it's generally, and only in certain circumstances is it not sound advice to do that, but generally, the wisdom is you go ahead and you diversify.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Did you get cut off?
Oh man, yeah, looked like he froze. He in the Matrix right now.
Oh. Close him up and then bring him back.
Yeah, we hope he comes back.
There you go.
Oh,
all right.
okay.
There you go.
There we
Go
go.
ahead.
So if you take a hit, for example, if you have some technology stocks in your portfolio and they're having a real bad run, they're all the way in the toilet, but you have some other stocks, you have some stocks that are in software, maybe you have some stocks that are in domestic goods, that are in restaurant and retail or whatever, and they're doing well, your portfolio is being balanced. So you're not going to take too much damage in one particular place. But when you have this, similar how they set this up, they'll tell you that, okay, so you have all this you have this education, and you come and say, well, I have my degrees, I have this, and the third. They come and get you on the other side, and they tell you, well, now you're overqualified. Like, overqualified. And you know, if you logically you think, okay, well, if I'm overqualified, then that should mean that I get this job without thinking about it. You look at me and all the other people who aren't qualified enough, that means I should get this. It's a no-brainer, right? Nope. That means we can't hire you in this position because now we have to pay you much, much more than what the position goes for. So now I've overshot the moon. And so now I either can't find jobs that can go ahead to hire me because I don't have enough education, or it's because I'm too educated, I have too much experience, what have you. So they find ways to set up shop on all sides. So they always have a checkmate on you. And they spend a great deal of time thinking about this. You have to understand, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is an accident or happenstance. They don't just flip a coin and they just happen to get lucky. No. They sit down, they do the math, they run the numbers. Just like with chess or strategy, they think, what's all the different ways that this could play out? And let's make sure we have a play for each and everything.
Yeah.
And that's how it works out. And that's the reason why this whole bipartisan nonsense about, oh, it's the liberals or the conservatives, it's the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, that's why it doesn't work. That's why even when the Democrats are in, not much actually changes for us, if anything. In fact, a lot of times it actually gets worse for us because we don't have the outcry that we would normally get. Understand, if you had black people kicking up the same fuss under Biden that they're kicking up now under Tangerine, things would look a lot different.
Yeah.
Because they understand that it's like attacking in the daytime versus attacking at night. Now, you can conduct war at any time, but any strategist will tell you that it's best to conduct war under cover of night. You don't want to be seen. You want to launch attacks. They even have different rules, I believe. It's considered the ideal time for launching a sneak attack is, I believe, at 4 o'clock in the morning, because they say that's when the body's circadian rhythms have you at your deepest sleep. So if you launch a surprise attack at 4 a.m., you're less likely to get resistance. You're less likely to get an intelligent defense from the opposition. So they'll tell you, if you can launch an attack at 4 a.m., you have a significant advantage in your back pocket. Now, you can still be successful going to war at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but you're likely to get a better result launching the attack at 4 a.m. So when it comes to dealing with the Republicans, anything they do, it's like 4 o'clock p.m. Because we're wide awake, we're watching. Oh, we see them over there. They're over the hill. No, you can't do this, X, Y, Z, the third. But under the Democrats, because we're off guard, we feel good, we feel safe. Okay, the bad guys are in, the good guys are in. Yay. Anytime they make a move, it's 4 a.m. with us.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. The other thing that we also have to understand is, again, when they set up all these benchmarks and all these brass rings for us to grab, we have to understand that a lot of the time that's only one way. You know, they like to give us, they love to give us the whole bootstrap speech. They've been giving us that since the civil rights era with Dr. MLK talking about we need to pick ourselves by the bootstraps. No free rides, no handouts. You have to pick yourself by the bootstraps. And Dr. King was the one who said, they tell us that we need to pick ourselves by the bootstraps. Like, bruh, we ain't got no bootstraps. In fact, we ain't even got boots.
Facts. Come on now.
We can definitely pick ourselves up by the bootstraps if we at least had the straps. We got no bootstraps. We got no boots. We got no footwear. So it makes no sense. And they'll give you the whole, you know, my family didn't have any handouts. We had to work hard for everything. Horseshit. One of the favorite something from nothing stories that they've tried to give out the last decade has been the rise of Jeff Bezos and how, you know, Amazon is this, you know, titan of business, of industry, and it started from this little college bookstore that was run out of Jeff Bezos's garage with everything. And they'll give you that story, and that's true. It was a small business started from scratch out of Jeff Bezos's garage. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just hear that story, you're like so inspired. Like, wow, you know, Jeff Bezos went from a bookseller to a trillionaire, one of the richest men in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I can do something like that too. Problem is, if you actually dig under the surface, you find out that there's a lot more wrinkles.
A lot more to the story. Yes,
they don't tell you that Jeffrey Bezos is an Ivy League graduate. He didn't even do like Zuckerberg and start and drop out. No, he is a graduate of Princeton University.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked several jobs, but before he quit his job to go ahead and go all in on Amazon, he was a senior vice president. He wasn't the janitor, wasn't the paper boy, he wasn't the delivery boy. He was the senior vice president of a Wall Street hedge fund.
Okay.
His wife, who he met at work, was also, I mean, she didn't make nearly as much as him, but she was also administrative assistant at the same hedge fund. She was also a Princeton graduate. 2 Ivy Leaguers in the same household.
These
both
things
with
matter.
financial knowledge.
Yeah.
And on top of that, as if that wasn't enough to further sweeten the pot, they went ahead and got a $250,000 loan from Jeff's parents to go ahead and launch the business.
Wow.
Which is why his parents still have, I believe, they'll have a 6% ownership in Amazon to this day.
Wow.
For the good faith investment. So that's a lot of factors working in your favor right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many of us, when we talk about, oh, why can't you do better, all the excuses, you look for handouts, how many of us are Ivy League graduates? How many of us are working in finance, let alone for a Wall Street hedge fund?
Yeah.
And or how many of us have parents or relatives that we could go to for a $250,000, hell, a 6-figure loan, a $100,000 loan?
Yeah. A $50,000 loan. Shit. 50.
How many of us have any one? Just one. He had all 3 of those. How many of us have any one of those 3? The Ivy League education, the top level career, and then on top of that, parents or family members who have and are willing, that's another category, and are also willing to loan and invest in $250K.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that.
That's a lot of wind in your sails.
Yeah.
But they'll tell you that this is the comfort from nothing story, but they'll look at you that don't have any of those benefits and tell you, well, you just don't work hard enough. You don't want it enough. You're lazy. You're entitled.
Yeah.
So you have to watch out for this. And that's strategy too, because they use that to beat you down psychologically and make you belittle yourself and devalue yourself and thinking, man, I'm not where I should be because, I just don't want it badly enough.
Yeah, they're comparing apples and car tires. You know what I'm saying? Like it's and
we know it's BS because, and I'll let you jump on. And it's pure BS because when we've actually looked at real stories where the playing field is level, where everybody actually has the same, no one has an advantage over anybody else, we've seen that more often than not. You toss into that arena, we win.
Yeah.
We've got black folk in foreign countries that don't even have properly running water. They don't have sanitation or any sewage or anything of that nature. And they're inventing batteries.
It's phenomenal. Yes.
They're piecing together robots out of plastic and used containers and all kind of crap like that. With nothing. No backing, no funding, just literally getting out of the mud. You toss us anywhere and we go make something shake. So you have to get your mind, you have to brainwash yourself, you have to clear out that gunk of all this westernized European nonsense that says that you have to reach our brass rings. If you don't do it the way we tell you that you need to do it, then you're not hitting on nothing. It's all warfare, and it's all related to the 9 areas of people activity.
Exactly. Hey, so I do want to get in to this last video for the night, then we could close out. We had a wonderful night. And then we can get into our crown check for the night. But this video, I definitely want to put out there because it's very powerful. All right.
Genetic survival. Now, if some people have organized a system for their genetic survival, what's the chance that they're going to give that system up? It's none. See, they worked hard. And we can consider it unjust. It's the most unjust system that has ever been devised on the planet, where you have 1/10 of the people deciding that they need to control 9/10 of the people on the planet. But all along, I maintain we have not understood this. We thought when we were formerly enslaved, if they would just take off the chains, everything is going to be okay. So they removed the chains, and then what did they do next? They put laws in place to accomplish the same thing. And we went through the 1960s in what is being called the Civil Rights era. And the black people, with all of their dignity and their pride and their courage, going up against horses and hoses and dogs to get the vote, to get that change, coming out of that movement, saying black pride, black is beautiful, black power, black self-respect. And the people who had something else in mind said that's dangerous. If people are talking about self-respect and dignity, then I encourage everybody to look at the films Eye on the Prize and look at those black people, men and women and children, going up against a horrific force. But they were determined and they had their self-respect with them. But the system said, this is dangerous. If we let these people go forward, talking about black pride, black dignity, black is beautiful, we will be in trouble. So we have to have something for them. And I maintain that's when they decided, well, we have to feed them images of Superfly, prostitutes, pimps selling drugs, men kicking women, all kind of language. Following that up into the present, with having black people call themselves niggers and dogs and gangsters and thugs and bitches and hoes. That's right. Now, once that's in the brain computer, you can do anything. See, that's the complete annihilation of self-respect. Now, we didn't understand it. We thought, oh, this is just entertainment. Yeah. Right. Like the movie Monster Ball. Right. Or the movie Precious. Do you see? Or the movie for colored girls. See, because we don't have a clue. We don't have a clue about what is going on. See, we've been thinking, and God bless Dr. Martin Luther King, a minister but a great political scientist. He said it's about love. Everybody should love. And he got killed. And I say the reason being that if everybody on the planet, all these people, white, non-white, loved and the love was expressed in sexual activity, what would happen? White would disappear. You see, so kill him, because that would mean our genetic disappearance. So, if the system is about white genetic survival, what do they have to worry about most?
Black men, white women.
Black babies.
Black babies. Black men, white women.
Okay, give him a B+. Black men, white women. Okay, but let's even take it further. In that if the concern is white genetic survival, they don't have to worry about black women. Why? See, the test is going to be next week. The reason being is that men, males, whether they're white, black, brown, red, or yellow, can impose sexual intercourse. If I would, try to impose sexual intercourse on any of the gentlemen here, and they said, I'm sitting next to my wife, and I went to my purse and I got my Uzi. And I frightened the man, what's going to happen? I hope everybody got that. The erection cannot be maintained in the presence of fear. So females cannot impose sexual intercourse, like ultimately, what? Frighten the man. Now the Creator made that possible so somebody, if they were in danger, they wouldn't be in conflict. You see, it's fear. Fear about unemployment could cause a man to have erection problems. Are you all with me? So there's a reason that if the concern is genetic survival, and see, we are decoding this material because we have thought somehow there's some white people who are going to work with us. Sometimes we thought it was Republicans, sometimes we thought, with Lincoln, and sometimes Democrats. But even President Obama is finding out. It could be Republicans or Democrats. But if it's a black man that they're being asked to support, they start jumping ship. Because the test for white people, see, in other words, they work 24/7. They don't sleep. They got 3 shifts going. See, we work 1 shift and then go to bed and then home. They work 24/7 about maintaining the conditions for their survival. You see, because it is very serious to them. And if they have some people who classify themselves as white, who start looking like they're getting out of line, what's the question that they ask? Are you a nigger lover? Do you see, are you with us or are you with them? Now, this is a fundamental question that has to do with the issue of their survival. So we cannot depend on communists, conservative liberals, Greens, libertarians. And see, this is not a lecture about hate white people. It is a lecture about understanding the opposition. And one of the best analogies to have in mind is the game of chess. See, what is the game of chess about?
Strategy.
Those are nice BC answers. It's about white king checkmating black king. White always moves first. So white is playing what? Offense, defense. And black has to play defense offense. This is what we have now. This is distressing to a lot of people because we wanted to believe, as we were even programmed to believe in the area of religion. See, I don't know how many of you, I'm a little bit older than many, but if you went to Sunday school, my grandfather was chairman of the deacon and trustee board, so we were in Sunday school before we could see straight. So what did we learn? That God is white. And anybody think they didn't learn that God was white? See, if you were given that little Sunday school card with a white picture of Jesus, your brain automatically concluded that his father had to be white. His father could not have been black. Now, if he was a historic figure, he was black. Even Billy Graham said that Jesus could not have been white. But we are programmed to think that Jesus was white, and therefore his father is white. And we were taught to sing, Jesus, translate white man, loves the little children. All the little children of the world, red, yellow, black, and white. All are precious in his sight. How many know that song? Boy, no more church going in these days. There was a time when everybody knew those basic songs. You see, but being taught that God is white, and they got a musical, came out some time ago, Arms Too Short to Box with God. Meaning arms too short to box with the white man. See, when I was a little child, having seen the Sunday school card with Jesus on it, I had just drawn my own conclusion that the man on the Quaker Oats box must be God. See, he was somewhat older with white hair. Jesus was younger, so you know, now we thank him for the food. We just had this big Quaker Oats box in the pantry. I mean, that was my conclusion. But if you, any of you, saw a Sunday school card with the white Jesus, your brain jumped to that conclusion too without your knowing it. That's called a subconscious conclusion.
All right, so that's our late great elder, Queen Mother, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Why did I bring her up and play her video? The reason why I did that was no other than I showed you guys earlier that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was inspired by Neely Fuller Jr., by his lectures, and then she came upon it, and she started, teaming up with him, and they both have did this collaborative fight against systematic racism, and also educating our people against what is the real definition of white supremacy, not that hood running around with hoods on their heads with the Ku Klux Klan, but a system that's in play that is built to self-operate without even, needing somebody to be behind the wheel of it. And she did a phenomenal job. Like I said, she has the ISIS papers. You guys need to go out there and go get that. This is what the book looks like. And then Neely Fuller Jr. has the United Independent Compensatory Code System of Concept. That's what his book looks like. You need to get both books. Very powerful books. Definitely need to be in your archive if you don't have it already, and get it as soon as possible, because I know because they both transition, people are buying their books up like crazy. So try to get it in. Yeah, try to get it in your archives as quick as possible. And just this illustration before I land my plane. Sometimes what is stopping you is alone in your head, and that's what she was talking about, the subconsciousness of, being programmed like that. We overthink too much. Like when we talk about building back a Black Wall Street, people always talking about, oh, they're gonna burn it down again. Sometimes you just being in your own mind can self-sabotage the creation of us going out here fighting for true justice. And I'll land my plane on that before we get into Crown Check. Fellas, want to add in on that real quick?
Yeah. That last point that you made was very key. About the Negroes that self-sabotage and have this defeatist mindset. It just gives them a built-in excuse to do nothing. Yeah. Why we gonna build a Black Wall Street again? They just gonna burn it down. Nigga, you clip up and you protect it this time. Period. And if you're not willing to do that, then you need to get your punk ass out the way and let some brothers come in who will. You know what I'm saying? That's just the long and short of it. Look, like I say all the time, like, I know that there is a place for marching and all that shit, but like when I'm gonna get involved, I've done a few marches in my day, but like I noticed that like a lot of niggas, all they want to do is march. You know what I'm saying? They just want a feel-good moment. They march and then they think that's the end. They think they done did some shit. Nah, man, you gotta have some shit that goes along with that. There needs to be a plan and, some type of end goal that goes along with the march. The march should be feeding something else, something larger that's going to be substantive, that's going to carry the movement forward. If you just marching in circles, you ain't doing shit. Yeah. And we need to understand that. I think that the most valuable things that Dr. Welsing and our good brother Neely Fuller brought to the game. And, actually I was introduced to Dr. Welsing first. I didn't find out about Neely Fuller until I think within the last 10, 12 years or so. My grandmother introduced me to Dr. Welsing back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And that's when I became, familiar with her work. I have the ISIS papers. I got to go pick up the compensatory code. I'm going to do that. But these things should be mandatory reading for all Black people because, as Neely Fuller said, until you understand the system of white supremacy, everything will confuse you. I was talking to my own father a few months back, and he was talking about how, a little over a year ago, about how old Trump is going to be locked up, and, there's no way he's going to get away with this. What? Like, I told him, Pop, I love you to life, but you clearly don't understand white supremacy. And I told him there's no way in hell this man is going to jail. Period. Just give it up. Don't even get excited about that. It's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And clearly, he's president again, for crying out loud. You understand? And that's a prime example. You're so comfortable in thinking that these people are your friends. I can't believe that my father's a liberal, you know what I mean? But he's a liberal, okay, whatever. You struggle where you stand, you deal with folks where they are. And I'm just trying to explain to him, nah, man, it is not like that. But the most valuable thing that Neely Fuller and Dr. Wilson contributed to me is to sound the alarm that white supremacy, racism and white supremacy is a system. It's a global system. It is a global system with many tentacles that are everywhere. You understand? And there is no escaping it. You understand? You have to fight it. You can't escape it. You know, I think that was extraordinarily valuable because, again, until you know what you're dealing with, you can't know how to counter it. Once you understand what you're dealing with and how severe it is a global system of oppression. Damn, that's heavy. Okay, I need to move in a certain way as a lifestyle to fight against this thing because it's so massive. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, there are white supremacists and Klan hoodies and all that stuff running around burning crosses on people's yards and all that shit. But in reality, those people are a minority of a minority of a minority. The real and most dangerous white supremacists are the ones that bring a casserole to your house, you know, ask if you want them to babysit your kids and all this old shit, but will get their ass on a jury and acquit a George Zimmerman. Will tell you to your face they could never vote for a Barack Obama because he was black. You understand what I'm saying? And I know somebody that actually happened to, you know, so that's why I'm using these examples. You know, real dangerous white supremacists are the ones you don't see coming. And this is what y'all got to understand. This is what Neely Fuller was trying to get through to you, and Dr. Wilson was trying to get through to you. You don't see them coming. And so therefore you have to be even more cautious because they mask themselves so that they can practice white supremacy against you. You understand? Look at this lady, not even a couple of weeks ago, got arrested because she was breaking black infants' limbs in the hospital. That's white supremacy. She didn't have no Klan hood. She wasn't running around yelling nigga. No, she just made sure that she harmed the black infants in the hospital. You know, and black folks, we really got to get through our head that we're always in danger and we have to move accordingly. I don't say that to be an alarmist. I don't say that to try to scare nobody. I say that because your ass is in danger and you need to be cognizant of that so that you can move in a certain way to minimize the effects of the danger that you're already in. You know, my dad got mad at me because I used to post up stuff and put hashtag race war. And I'm like, I told him, I'm like, I don't know what you getting upset with me doing that is going to change. You're in the race war. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if you acknowledge it or not. And I started giving him examples of things that people are actively doing to black people and getting no justice for. He didn't have an answer. And I'm like, look, you know, I tell you like I tell my other liberal friends, you're my father, so I'm going to respect you. I'm not going to go in on you like I do on them, but I'm going to tell you like I tell some of my liberal friends, hey, just because you close your eyes and pretend that something ain't there, don't mean it ain't there. And I'll park the Chevy. All right.
Yeah, well said. I got my family is the same way. They, you know, I'm the black sheep with it. They have their heads are so delusional of sense of reality, not understanding the system, and it's crazy. But like I say, from the diaspora, man, they don't educate their children like that. I got educated by FBA 5%ers from New York. Like that's where I give credit to. You know what I'm saying? So I land my plane on that. Go ahead, Bob.
No, it's I'm in the same boat as y'all, man. My education has been pretty much self-directed. I just happen to be one of those people who I've always intrinsically just been drawn to truth, been drawn to realness. If someone comes talking to me, they come dropping some logic in my lap or presenting me with some facts or what have you. I've never been one of those people that gotta, sit back and, be in denial for a little bit. Now, if you come into me and I recognize that, hey, this makes sense or this adds up, I'm with it.
Yeah, it is.
You don't have to do a whole bunch of singing and dancing and offer me a 2-for-1 discount, whatever. No, if it's real talk, if it makes sense, you ain't got to do a whole bunch of. I'm probably the easiest person to flip over because it makes sense. But that's it. It has to make sense.
Right.
If it's BS and nonsense, I'm gonna ignore you. I'm gonna focus on something else. I'm gonna see if I can scratch some lint off the bottom of my foot or something. But if you're talking real talk, I'm there with you 212%. So when I first happened to have my chance encounter with Black empowerment and hearing real talk that I never heard anywhere else, was completely foreign from everything else that I heard, of course, obviously, I'm take a step back like, that's kind of wild. But when I thought about it, when I ran it through my head, gave it a sniff test, said, this passes, adds up, I was conscious, like, let me hear a little more what this is about. The more I heard, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, all the dots are getting, all the dots being connected. The hazy images starting to make sense. You know what? I couldn't explain this before, but through this lens, this does make sense. Boom.
Yes.
Been on the train ever since because it's real talk. And that's why it's so important to put the master teachers in our children's lap early. It's important that they have this because some of us have been blessed to be able to get this from a young age, but a lot of us, most of us, I would say, we've had to come into this later on in our adult years. We've had to really, and I was talking about undergoing my second education. I got my regular standard K through 12 and then my college education, but some of the most important information of my life that I've learned has come since I left those doors of formal education on my own study, my own research, listening to intelligent people that know more than I do, studying, reading intelligent things, and observing current events and past events through these lenses. That's where the bulk of my education has come from. And, the sooner you get, the better. The old saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. So if you're getting it right now, you're going to get in the future. That's great. But it's so much more important to go ahead and make sure that the future generations have this early so they can be powerhouses and titans with it from the cradle. Imagine if you could go ahead and basically front load the next Malcolm X, the next Neely Fuller Jr., the next Dr. Francis Cress Welsing in their toddler years. By the time they hit middle school, they can already give you a full dissertation on the system of racism, white supremacy, and what we need to do in their childhood years. Mm-hmm. What will that look like when they become of age? They're an adult out there in the world. They can actually make moves and actually start, acting on this information knowledge that they have then. Mm. Priceless. Right. So the sooner we're able to do that, the better it is for all parties involved, because once that happens, we're going to probably have the tools, the resources, and the people in place that can make sure they're able to take powerful steps to tearing down the system of racism, white supremacy, and installing justice. And before I close out on what I had to say about that, I will also mention, Ant, you did right. Definitely, the compensatory code, need to go ahead and get that in your libraries. But let me make sure that this is put out there off top. If you are going to go ahead and cop the compensatory code and the word guide, there's technically three, but there's two books that Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. has put out. There's the United Independent Compensatory Code book, and then he has the revised, updated version of it. So there's the original version, there's the revised, expanded version of it, and he also put out a word guide to not only better help you understand the terms that are in the book, but also to give you better tools for understanding and thinking and breaking down white supremacy. Because as Neely Fuller has talked about, words are some of the most important tools that we have. Because if you think about it, words are how you navigate the world around you. And in fact, if you talk to any anthropologist, if you talk to any social scientist, they'll tell you that for any culture, the cradle of culture is the language. The container of any culture is the language. That's why there's such a big deal nowadays about preserving old languages. All these tribes that have people, waiting off, sometimes have gone extinct. It's important to preserve the language. Why? Because the language is the container of the culture. The words they use, how they speak, all that carries the soul, the spirits of the people, their flavor, their seasoning, what they bring to the world. It's in the language. So when you have that word guide, you're better able to make use of words and understand how to frame things and view things and how to interpret things. So you have one, you definitely want to get the other. You want to get the word guide and the compensatory code if you want to actually support Neely Fuller's work and legacy, because his family was 100% on board with his work. They revered their relative to death. If you want to support them and also not get ripped off, you need to go to producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. You place your order there, you're going to get the book. I checked on Amazon. They're literally price gouging. They have the original version of the code book going for $45 and the revised version going for $50. If you get it off of the actual site, producejustice.com, you're going to save at least $20 both ways. Huge difference. Currently, they are backed up because, of course, the Elder Paso, there's a lot of people that's been trying to get it. I think it's about a 4 to 6 week gap between purchase and fulfillment. If you wait a little longer, it's not going to be like that forever. If you wait a little longer, they'll be able to get it to you at a more reasonable time, or you can put in the order now. But be patient with them. Even when Mr. Fuller was alive, because he valued the work so much, they never outsourced any of the shipping and everything. If anyone has ever purchased either of those books from producejustice.com, Elder Neely Fuller Jr. and his son, they themselves have taken it upon themselves to go ahead and package your book and send it from you. You got it directly from Neely Fuller Jr. You didn't get it from some shipping plant out in Oakland or in Dallas or anywhere. Every order, Neely Fuller himself went ahead and packaged that and sent that to you. They've still preserved their legacies. That's why they're backed up presently. Be patient with that. But definitely go ahead and support our brother's work. Make sure that you have the code guide so it can make a difference in your life. I have never heard of any person who's purchased that book and regretted it. Every person's loved it. They've talked about how it's made a huge, tremendous difference in their life. The number one comment I've seen, and I also listened to the tribute show they did for him on Radio 1 on Valentine's Day, I believe it was, the day before. And out of all the people I heard call in, the most consistent compliment I heard them pay him was that the book helped them. It literally shed a light on their life. It helped them express things and explain things, understand things that had been happening to them, and they didn't have the language for. They didn't have a way to explain what was going on to them or what they saw in the world. They saw things. They knew it wasn't right, but they didn't have the tools, the language to define it or the framework to understand it. And once they got their hands on the code book, everything made sense. Like the Fuller said, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. And everyone who's got their hands on this said that this book helped deconfuse them and get them to a place where now they're able to properly take steps against the system of racism and white supremacy.
Well said. Definitely well said.
All right.
We're going to go into our last thing for the night, which is the crown check. And I don't know, I don't think I did this one before. I don't know. You guys tell me. All right. So our crown check for tonight is this beautiful sister right here. Did I do her before?
No.
Okay.
No.
This sister does not look familiar. No.
Okay. Meet the first female pitcher in the Negro League to have a DC street named after her. So you're looking at Mammy Peanut Johnson, the trailblazing female pitcher in the Negro Leagues, will be honored on Washington, D.C. intersection named in her memory. The new Mammy Peanut Johnson Plaza will be located at Florida Avenue and New York Avenue Northeast, celebrating her historic achievements with the Indianapolis Clowns. This tribute recognized her pioneering spirit and enduring legacy. A lot of people don't know who she is. The Indianapolis Clowns were a professional baseball team in the Negro American League, tracing their origins back to the 1930s. The Clowns were the last of the Negro League teams to disband, continuing to play exhibition games in the 1980s. They began to play as the independent Ethiopian Clowns, joined the Negro American League as the Cincinnati Clowns, and after a couple of years relocated to Indianapolis. Hank Aaron, our late great baseball legend, was a Clown for a short period. And the Clowns were also one of the first professional baseball teams to hire a female player. And that's before the Ethiopian Clowns, there's evidence indicating that teams have formed in the teams was formed in Miami, Florida in 1935 or 1963, 1936 by Hunter Campbell and the bootlegger Johnny Pierce was also known as the Miami Giants, and by the 1941 as the Miami Ethiopian Clowns. The team became independent barnstorming club, shortening its name to the Independent Clowns. And as you can see, at the end of the day, she was, let me tell you how remarkable she was, right? So the Clowns was the first professional baseball team to hire a female player to a long-term contract that was not voided soon after. In the effort to replace Hank Aaron, who had left the team the previous year, the Clowns hired Toni Stone to play second base with the team in 1953, in which she batted .243. The following year, the Clowns sold her contract to Kansas City Monarchs. They hired two women replacement pitcher Mammy Peanut Johnson, who would go on record a record of 33-8 while batting .262 to .284 on the team, and the second baseman Connie Morgan. Women also served as umpires for the team, notably former Chicago model Nancy Miller was the first female umpire in pro ball. And I wanted to see if I can get, I had the information. I don't want to waste too much in the 1960s. I wanted to show you guys that she ended up being 16 years old. She was 16 years old when she joined in. I think this information right here. Okay. Yes, after graduating high school, Mammy played with the St. Sarpins recreational team in D.C. At 17, Johnson hopped to pursue a baseball career and tried out for the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Despite being a skilled player with lots of experience in the men's Major League Baseball being integrated by the time, Mammy was not allowed to try out due to the color of her skin. However, soon after rejection, Mammy was offered the opportunity to try out for the Indianapolis Clowns along with Connie Morgan. She was signed by the Indianapolis Clowns in 1953, played from the team from 1953 to 1955, where she was like 16 years old. I think this is where they says she was, yes, right here. At the age of 11, Mammy moved to D.C. and continued to play both baseball and softball there. She attended there, and then afterwards, she was 16 years old when she joined the team. Man, shout out to Mammy Peanut, man. Our late great lady. That's her right there with the Clowns hat on. I'm definitely gonna get one of those outfits to see if I can go and look for the archive. And that is our crown check for the night. Shout out to Mammy Peanut Johnson for the owner.
Wow. She must have been great to play with the men. God damn. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
wow.
Definitely.
Shout
Close us out, fellas.
Hey man, I just gotta say, man, get on code. You know what I'm saying? Get on code. If you learn anything from this show, get on code. Get all this stupidity off your mind. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to our good brother Neely Fuller, rest in peace. And shout out to his sidekick, the memorable Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She was amazing as well. Y'all brothers and sisters out there really, really need to reset your priorities. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of very serious problems. I love to have fun too. We have a lot of very serious problems, and we need to start making time to address those things. And hopefully Neely Fuller's legacy, if you study it in depth, you'll pick that up and you'll start applying it to life. And I'll park the Chevy.
Well said. Drake, take us out.
Absolutely. There's a season for all things. And the fact of the matter is you need to have balance in life. There's a time to work, there's a time to play. But in any case, if you're not properly balanced, you're going to suffer setbacks. And balance doesn't mean that everything's at a 50-50 level. You're going to have some seasons in your life where it's going to call for more work than play. If you're in school, for example, let's say you're in nursing school, or you're trying to get you're trying to become a doctor, there's going to be a period where you're off balance, quote unquote, where most of your time is going to be working. You're going to be studying, you're going to be in the books. You're not going to have time to turn up and play as often although you should make time for it when you can. But your priorities are going to be go ahead in the books, get to where you're trying to be. Once you're out the woodwork, once you've made it, once you got your white coat, now you're ready to go ahead in your field, then you can afford to catch up on the neglect that you've done. You can be more present with your family. You can have more fun. You can go on the family vacation in the past or what have you. You can even hit the clubs, whatever else you do for recreation a bit more to celebrate. You've achieved something. You're righting the ship now. You're getting your balance back in order. But the important thing is it's a season. Your winter, summer, spring, and fall can't all be turn up.
Facts. Yeah.
At some point, there's got to be a roll the sleeves up
and
get to work, goddammit.
Let's get to work. Facts.
There's work to be done. I remember a sister called in. Excuse me. I remember a sister called in one time to I was listening when he passed to some of the past broadcasts of the compensatory concept with on Radio One. Shout out Radio One for hosting Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. and his co-host Mr. Bobby for so many years. That radio station's been a godsend for Black people. Really has. I remember Sister called in one of the last episodes he did before he got sick, and she said, I don't know what to do, or I'm every time I look around the news, I'm stressed out, or I don't know what to do. What should I do? Pretty much what she was saying. And Neely said, well, anytime you're not sure about what to do, you have to look back what the code says. The purpose is to go ahead and defeat racism and white supremacy. Your job is to make sure that you bring in a system of justice, which is guaranteeing that nobody's mistreated, and making sure that those who need help get the most constructive help. So anytime you're bored, what do? I'm bored, I don't know what to do. Go produce justice. Well, I'm not sure what I should be doing right now. Go produce justice. I'm scared. What's the thing that I should do in this moment? Go produce justice. If the goal hasn't been achieved, your default should always be to go back to producing justice. Plain and simple. So we always have our marching order. There should never be a moment where we're bored, we have nothing to do, or we lost direction, whatever. The mission is simple. Are we where we want to be? Yes or no? No. So then what's the mission? Produce justice. Well, then go out and produce the justice. What you looking at me for? I got mustard on my shirt. Go produce justice. And that's supposed to be our answer. When we get to that mindset, it's going to be amazing how much of a difference, how much of a game changer we're going to be as a person in our own personal lives, in our families, in our neighborhoods and communities, in our workplaces. When we become a person that develops a reputation of producing justice, we're being constructive, we're getting things done. And that's the thing that we hang our hat on. I take pride in being known as Mr. Get Shit Done. I'm Mrs. Get Shit Done. When we decide that that's who I'm going to be, what we produce is going to be amazing, but it's also going to light a fire under so many other people right now. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people that need permission to go ahead and be that person.
Yeah. Facts.
But that's okay, because everyone can be a leader. But you do what you can, and you inspire like the flame under somebody else. Somebody has to be the match. The fuse can't light itself. But once that fuse gets lit, and once it makes its way to the dynamite, oh, it's a party.
Yeah, it is.
So take it upon yourself, if you are the match, to be the match. Light the fuse. Get the party started. Once again, we want to thank you tremendously for going ahead and joining us on another week of Manifestations 2020. Thank you for rocking with us, whether you saw us live, whether you watched the replay, kicking it with us over on IG or any of our other platforms. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you go ahead to YouTube, however. Like, share, and subscribe to tonight's episode. And make sure you click on the little bell icon at the top and subscribe to all of our notifications. We are not going to go crazy in your notifications. You're not going to see a whole string of manifestations. But when Sunday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time comes around, you're going to get the notification that, hey, the brothers are coming to help us produce justice. And you're going to get the grand invitation. Be safe, Take care of yourselves. Hope you have a safe weekend. Hope your Valentine's Day was beautiful. Hope your President's Day is a safe one. We'll catch y'all next week. Same time, same place, same faces. Much love. And remember, we're still learning.
There it is.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You gotta eat what you kill. You gotta go out there. You gotta hunt for your meals.
We all have that ability to connect with people, to be that motivational person in somebody's life.
You gotta let people know there's certain lines you don't cross, and that there's gonna be consequences if you do.
Man up.
If you are an adult and you are in a relationship, that person's emotions are not your responsibility.
Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
The devil, during slavery, destroyed the masculinity or manhood of the so-called Negro. No man. Right now you got to be trained all over again to be a man.
When someone is obligated to do something, it is binding upon them to do it. And failure to do it causes reaction.
Man up.
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
If black people knew their glorious past, if black people knew their glorious past, if black people knew their glorious past, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.